Last night in BC, hundreds of people, mostly racialized Canadians, came out to exercise their democratic rights to support the political party that they believed in, and were faced with harassment, racist insults, threats of violence, as they participated in something that is fairly fundamental as a freedom for all Canadians to be able to make their voices heard and impact on the way our democracy unfolds. That's not right. I was glad to be able to be there virtually. But the safety of Canadians choosing to make their voices heard in politics should never be in question, as it was last night and as we're increasingly seeing across the country. The fundamental freedoms we have as a country, that we enjoy as Canadians, need to be defended, need to be protected. Nobody should feel endangered or harassed because of their support for one political party or another. And that's something I think we all need to be vigilant about, and that's certainly something that Canadians are looking at very carefully at all orders of government right now.
Like he's playing
what
it.
happened in Peterborough was another isolated incident. But what I'm noticing is
Before this, like he's playing, Trudeau is playing it like as if, being a liberal makes you a minority. That's the way that he framed it. Racialized people who also may happen to be supporters of me. Like, you're a rich white man. It shouldn't be, people's huge fears, the noose, the noose for the prime minister, the death threats. Do you know what happens to actual marginalized, racialized people in Canada every day that don't have a swarm of private security to protect them every single place that they go? With all due respect, and I say this as someone, I've voted for Justin Trudeau before, but I say this with all due respect. I am not concerned about the death threats that a rich, powerful white man gets for pretending as if he actually cares about the scores of racial minorities who are faced with real acts of state-sanctioned violence every single day in this country. That's none of my concern. He can say all of this stuff, but he does nothing. The RCMP is continuing to go on to Indigenous land of Wet'suwet'en to take their land from them. There's still so many things. There's still police brutality. There's still systemic racism. It's in the court system and just in everything. It's just not. You can say that we want equality, we need equality, and then do nothing. That's called being a liberal, and he's just protecting his position of power, and he does this perfectly. It's this, it's like a Belichick type pivot, and earlier this week he's not welcomed by an indigenous ceremony in Kamloops, booed off the stage, and now we all forget it. Because he's framing himself as some kind of victim of some type of targeted hate campaign. Suddenly he's the victim of all of this hate in Canada. Again, he went to a Indigenous memorial ceremony and got booed off stage and told ceremony goers, respect your elders, which was an awful look for him. And everyone forgets about that now because a bunch of CIs, look up what CI means. A bunch of cop buddies show up with nooses for a fundraiser, and he just plays it. He just spins it politically like I'm the victim of this hate, and it's just the RCMP wants their own confidential informants to pose a violent threat to the prime minister's safety. That's what's happening. Do you think the RCMP knows who these people are? Yeah, they do. They 100% do. Do you think that they're okay with letting them go and do this? Well, if it serves Trudeau's purpose, just like the convoy, it's the same thing. The RCMP has a lot of these alt-right extremists around their finger. They know who they all are, and they let them play these type of games, because every single time they do something like this, you know what it does? It completely it shuts down any type of conversation from the right. People who are anti-Trudeau, well, then he automatically says, oh, well, you're for hate, because look at these people who are also against me. They're bringing nooses and stuff. Meanwhile, the people that are associated with these protests, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the police know who they are. And I'm also going to go out on a limb and bet you that there's probably like 2 degrees of separation between the people who are organizing these anti-Trudeau protests and the police. That's not a crazy statement to say. Go and look up what the RCMP has done in, the brutal authority of the colonizer settler state of Canada. Look what they've done. This is the exact same thing that Trudeau did, that Pierre Trudeau did with the FLQ. You infiltrate your opposition, and then you lead them to do these types of violent things to completely discredit them. He's now doing that, Trudeau is, with the Conservatives. But he's also framing this where, if you're against Trudeau, you're an extremist or you're a radical. When it's like, no, you might just not be a liberal. And that's okay, because Canada's pretty fucked up right now. And it shouldn't be that, everybody has, the right to, fair education and housing if you can afford it. That's where Canada is headed right now. Everyone should have good housing and afford healthcare and good education if you have the money to afford it. Otherwise, you're left in this completely broken system that's just, it's disintegrated. And we're focused on identity politics like this. And I'm a leftist. I'm a non-binary person. I have legitimate white guilt. I'm part Metis. And I just have legitimate existential guilt of being, born as a male, a white male in Canada. So I'm the furthest thing from being intolerant. But what Trudeau does here is he's just playing one side against the other to ensure his power. And it's just identity politics, and it's not actually getting anything done. All it's doing is, you're getting people to back you because of the things that you say and the promises that you make, even though nothing gets done. It's all the same. And he can do this while also telling Indigenous people 2 days ago to respect their elders. And like a week ago, RCMP show up illegally on Wet'suwet'en every single day, actually, not even a week ago. Every single day it's happening. You can't have it both ways. Anyways, I want to hear what Mr. Singh has to say, because I bet it'll be just as bad.
What's true is that there is more of a polarization and an aggression and an anger that I haven't seen before. And I did mention how there are politicians that are feeding that division, inflaming those fires of division and hatred, and that's deeply concerning. People should be able to be angry about policies that they feel strongly about. People should be able to express that. I think that's a fundamental part of democracy. But no one should feel physically threatened or menaced when they're a leader. And I think about the message that's being sent to a lot of people out there that might consider politics and may not now, seeing that level of tension and aggression. And that's going to be a lot of the people that we want to participate in politics that are going to be discouraged. And I think that's really dangerous.
like
What happened?
I just need to remind you that like in places like, I don't know, in France, where they have far better 4-day work week, they have decent things that we in the US and in Canada don't have. You know how they got that? By threatening politicians. This whole idea, America was founded on threatening politicians. Okay? This whole thing about like this moral, taking this moral high ground of like, oh, this isn't the way to have these types of conversations. I'm the rich and powerful one. Don't discriminate against me because I'm rich and powerful. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. And I think it's pretty important to point out, Trudeau seems to be like Singh said, but he seems to be he's the one, Trudeau, he's the one stoking the flames of the division, while also presenting himself as some kind of victim of this organized hate campaign. It's like, you're white, dude. You're a white rich man. You're making it worse for everybody else. And yet you're playing the victim. This is just classic neoliberalism. And like I said, he's like the Bill Belichick of neoliberal identity politics. He uses hate, division, threats, and violence as a way to solidify his position in power by way of constant lip service and by playing the victim of polarizing, creating this polarizing environment that he's helped cultivate himself. And he's, like I say, he's like the Bill Belichick, Steve Kerr. He's like he's just like how his dad did, exactly like his father did with the FLQ, who stomped out the separatist movement in Quebec by doing this exact same thing, by putting in agitators within the movement and guiding them to become more and more extreme. And then doing look at these people. They want to be extremists. This is what they believe in. Look at them. They're extremists. If you believe what they believe, you're an extremist. And he did the same thing with the anti-vaxxers to make it so that there was no conversation about not getting vaccinated. And I got triple vaccinated, double vax plus booster. So like, I just mean like, let's actually have a scientific conversation about these types of things instead of it just being what I say goes. So yeah.